The scent of rosemary and garlic filled my kitchen, a perfect harmony that had taken hours to achieve. I'd spent my entire Sunday preparing this roast, determined to make tonight's dinner special. Ryan deserved a proper celebration for his promotion, even if his mother insisted on joining us. I'm Camille, and until today I thought I knew exactly how to handle my mother-in-law's peculiarities. The sound of the front door opening made me tense. Linda's voice carried through the house before I could even see her. "Oh, Ryan, darling, I brought your favorite pot roast, the one you've loved since you were little." My fingers gripped the counter's edge. She wasn't supposed to arrive for another hour, and I definitely hadn't invited her to bring food. The click of her heels against the hardwood grew louder, each step a countdown to inevitable confrontation. "Something smells interesting in here," Linda announced, sweeping into my kitchen like she owned it. Her designer handbag swung from one arm, while the other clutched a ceramic dish to her chest. "I made Ryan's favorite," I said, forcing a smile. "Remember? We discussed this last week. I wanted to surprise him." Linda's perfectly lined lips curved into something between a smile and a sneer. "Did we? Must have slipped my mind." She set her dish on the counter and lifted the lid off mine. Her nose wrinkled. "Oh dear, is this supposed to be pot roast?" "It's braised beef with rosemary and garlic," I explained, though I knew it wouldn't matter. "Ryan mentioned loving it last time we had it at—" "Sweetheart," Linda cut in, already pulling on disposable gloves she'd produced from her purse. "My Ryan has very specific tastes. He's always been sensitive about his food. I don't think this will agree with him at all." Before I could stop her, she grabbed my roast, the one I'd spent hours preparing, and dropped it straight into the garbage. The thud of meat hitting the bottom of the bin echoed through the kitchen like a gunshot. "There. Now we can serve him something proper." She turned to her own dish, humming as if she hadn't just destroyed hours of my work. Ryan chose that moment to walk in, loosening his tie. "Something smells amazing, Mom." He kissed her cheek, then glanced at me. "Where's that roast you mentioned this morning, Cam?" "Your mother threw it away," I said flatly. "Oh, come on now," he laughed as if I just told a joke. "Mom wouldn't do that." Linda patted his cheek. "Camille's just upset because her experiment didn't turn out right. You know how sensitive she can be about these things. Luckily, I brought your favorite." I watched Ryan's face, waiting for him to defend me, to question his mother's version of events. Instead, he grinned and reached for the serving spoon. "You're the best, Mom. Nobody makes pot roast like you do." Something snapped inside me then. Not loudly, not dramatically, but definitively, like a thread pulled too tight finally giving way. I'd spent 3 years trying to be the perfect wife, trying to navigate Linda's constant undermining with grace. But standing there, watching my husband eagerly dig into his mother's food while mine rotted in the garbage, I realized grace wasn't going to cut it anymore. "I'm going out," I announced, grabbing my keys. "But dinner's ready," Ryan protested, his mouth already full. "Eat with your mother," I said, heading for the door. "You two deserve each other." As I walked out, I heard Linda's voice. "She's always been so dramatic, hasn't she? You really must learn to handle her better, darling." I got into my car and started driving, no destination in mind. But for the first time since I'd married Ryan, I felt something other than hurt or resignation. I felt rage. Pure, clarifying rage. And underneath that rage was something even more dangerous. A plan beginning to take shape. I spent 3 hours driving that night, finally ending up at Alex's apartment. She took one look at my face and pulled me inside, already reaching for the wine. "You look like you've either committed murder or you're planning to," she said, pouring generously. "The night's still young." I accepted the glass, sinking into her couch. Linda threw my dinner in the garbage, right in front of me, and Ryan... My voice caught. He just laughed it off. Alex's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, then held it up. "Speaking of your husband, that's his 4th text asking where you are." "Let him worry." I took a long sip. "For once." "You need to start documenting this stuff," Alex said, grabbing her laptop. "Every incident, every text, every time she shows up unannounced. Trust me, you'll want a record." "For what? Divorce?" The word hung in the air, heavier than I'd expected. for whatever comes next. She opened a new document. Start talking. By midnight, we had 3 pages of incidents. Reading them laid out like that, clinical and chronological, made my stomach turn. It wasn't just tonight's dinner. It was 3 years of calculated humiliation. My phone lit up with another text, this time from Linda. Ryan's very upset. A good wife wouldn't abandon her husband like this. Come home and we can discuss your behavior. She's unbelievable, Alex muttered, reading over my shoulder. What are you going to do? Before I could answer, my phone rang. Ryan. Where are you? His voice was tight. Mom's worried sick. Mom's worried? I laughed. That's rich. Tell me, Ryan, did you even look in the garbage? Did you check to see if I was lying about what she did? Come on, Cam. You know how Mom gets. She just wants what's best for me. And what about what's best for us? For our marriage? Silence stretched between us. Then, maybe if you tried harder to understand her? I'm coming home, I cut him off. But not tonight. I need space. Space? He sounded genuinely confused. From what? If you have to ask, that's part of the problem. I hung up before he could respond. Alex closed her laptop. Stay here tonight. We'll figure this out tomorrow. But the next morning brought fresh hell. Linda had let herself into our house again and was organizing my closet when I got home. Oh good, you're back, she said, not looking up from where she was sorting my clothes into piles. These really aren't suitable for Ryan's new position. We should donate them. I stood in the doorway, watching her handle my carefully curated wardrobe like discount store rejects. Get out of my closet, Linda. Now, dear, there's no need for hostility. I'm helping you understand the standards expected of an executive's wife. The standards? My voice was eerily calm. Like throwing away food I spent hours preparing? Like undermining every decision I make in my own home? She straightened, smoothing her expensive blouse. I've raised a successful son. I know what's best for him. You're still learning, and that's okay. But your resistance to guidance is concerning. Where's Ryan? At work, of course. He was very hurt by your behavior last night. I suggested he give you time to collect yourself. Of course she did. I pulled out my phone and started taking pictures of the closet scene. What are you doing? Linda's voice sharpened. Documenting. Alex suggested it might be helpful. Something flickered across Linda's face, the first genuine emotion I'd seen from her. Fear, maybe? But it vanished quickly behind her usual mask of concern. That Alex, she said softly. She's not a very positive influence, is she? I was just telling Ryan how worried I am about your friendship with her. The threat was clear. Back off, or I'll poison Ryan against your best friend, too. I lowered my phone, meeting her gaze. You know what, Linda? Keep sorting. In fact, why don't you just move in? Take over completely? Because this, right here, this is the moment you've finally gone too far. I walked out, leaving her standing among piles of my clothes, and pulled out my phone to text Alex. You're right. I need to document everything, and then I need a lawyer. The family dinner was Linda's idea, of course. A chance to clear the air, she said. I knew better, but I went anyway, dressed in clothes she hadn't managed to donate during her closet raid. Ryan's childhood home loomed before me, all perfect landscaping and pristine windows. Inside, voices drifted from the dining room. I caught fragments of conversation that stopped abruptly when I entered. Camille? Linda's smile didn't reach her eyes. We were just discussing you. Tom, my father-in-law, shot me an apologetic look. He was the only one who seemed genuinely happy to see me. Ryan told us about your emotional outbursts lately, Linda continued, arranging silverware that was already perfectly aligned. We're concerned. Are we? I looked at Ryan. Or is this another private discussion between you and your mother? Ryan shifted uncomfortably. Cam, don't start. Actually, Linda interrupted. There's something we need to address. She pulled out an envelope from her purse. I didn't want to bring this up, but given your recent behavior. My stomach dropped as she removed several printed pages. I recognized them immediately. Screenshots of text messages between Alex and me, discussing Linda's behavior and my plans to document everything. Going through my phone, Ryan? My voice was barely above a whisper. When? He couldn't meet my eyes. Mom needed to show me. Show you what? I snatched the papers from Linda's hands. That I'm tired of being undermined in my own marriage? That I'm documenting your mother's abuse? Abuse? Linda's voice cracked with practiced emotion. Is that what you're telling people about me? About our family? She turned to Ryan. You see, this is exactly what I warned you about. The signs were there from the beginning. Signs of what? I demanded. Your instability, dear. Your paranoid tendencies, just like your mother. The room went silent. Tom's fork clattered against his plate. What are you talking about? I asked, but deep down I already knew. Linda had been digging. It wasn't hard to find out about your mother's hospitalization, Linda said softly. The mental health issues that run in your family. Why didn't you tell us before the wedding, Camille? My mother's breakdown after my father's death had been private, a brief, dark period she'd recovered from completely. I'd never told Ryan's family because it wasn't their business. But now, you investigated my family? I turned to Ryan. And you knew about this? Mom was worried, he mumbled. She thought I should know. Know what? That my mother needed help after watching my father die? That she got that help and recovered? Unlike some people who just manipulate and destroy everything they touch? Linda gasped. Ryan, do you hear how she talks to me? Enough. Tom's voice cut through the tension. Linda, this is cruel, even for you. Stay out of this, Linda snapped at her husband. Our son needs to understand what kind of woman he married. I stood up, my chair scraping against the floor. You want to know what kind of woman I am, Linda? I'm the kind who's done playing your games. I turned to Ryan. And you? You went through my phone, shared private conversations with your mother, helped her dig up painful parts of my past to use against me. Camille, please. Ryan reached for my hand. We can work this out. I pulled away. Can we? Because right now, I'm not sure what's worse, your mother's manipulation, or the fact that you're too weak to stand up to it. Don't you dare call my son weak, Linda hissed. Why not? It's the truth. And here's another truth. I'm done with all of this. With you, with your games, and with my spineless husband who can't cut the umbilical cord. I walked out, ignoring Ryan's calls behind me. In my car, my hands shook as I pulled out my phone and dialed Alex. Remember when you said I should document everything? My voice was steady despite the tears streaming down my face. Well, now I need that lawyer, and I need you to help me plan something special for Linda, something she'll never see coming. The line was quiet for a moment. Then Alex said, Come over, we've got work to do. The text from Tom came 3 days after the disastrous dinner. Coffee? Just us. Need to talk. We met at a small cafe across town, far from Linda's usual haunts. Tom looked older than I remembered, his shoulders heavy with something more than years. I've been watching this happen before, he said, sliding into the booth. With Ryan's first serious girlfriend in college. Linda drove her away too. But this... He pulled out his phone. This is different. He showed me a video, Linda in their kitchen, speaking to someone off camera. Camille's becoming a problem, her voice crackled through the speaker. We need to handle this before she ruins everything. Ryan's finally getting somewhere in his career, and I won't let her emotional instability destroy that. When was this? My coffee went cold, untouched. Last week, before she dug up that information about your mother. Tom's expression hardened. She's been planning this for months, building a case against you. Why are you showing me this? Because I failed the last time, stayed quiet, watched that poor girl crumble under Linda's schemes. He leaned forward. But you're different. You're fighting back. And I want to help. My phone buzzed. Ryan calling again. I declined it, watching 3 text messages pop up immediately. He's worried, Tom said. But not about you, about losing control. Linda's taught him well. I can't keep living like this, I admitted. But leaving, everyone will blame me. They'll say I gave up, that I'm unstable, just like Linda wants them to think. Unless you change the narrative. Tom pulled out a manila envelope. I've been keeping records, dates, incidents, witnesses, Linda's pattern of behavior, not just with you, but with everyone she sees as a threat to her control over Ryan. I opened the envelope with trembling fingers. Years of documented manipulation lay before me. Notes, photos, emails, a systematic dismantling of anyone who got too close to Ryan. Why didn't you stop her? I tried once, early in our marriage. His smile was bitter. Nearly lost everything, including custody of Ryan. Linda's very good at turning things around, making herself the victim. I learned to document instead of confront. My phone buzzed again, this time with a text from Linda. Ryan's heartbroken. If you come home now, we can work through your issues together, as a family. Tom read the message over my shoulder and snorted. Translation, come back so I can finish destroying you. I won't, I said, surprising myself with the steel in my voice. But I need to be smart about this. Linda's already painting me as unstable. If I move too quickly, she'll use it against you, Tom finished. But what if you gave her exactly what she expects? Let her think she's winning while you build your case. Linda's confident right now, sloppy. The more evidence you gather, the harder it'll be for her to spin this her way. I studied Tom's face. Why help me now? Why not earlier? Because earlier, you were trying to save your marriage. Now? He gestured to the documentation. Now you're trying to save yourself, and that's a fight worth backing. My phone lit up with another message. Alex this time. Meeting with the lawyer set for tomorrow. You ready? I looked at Tom's evidence, then at my father-in-law's weary, determined face. I need to copy all of this, I said. And then we need to talk strategy. Linda wants a war? Let's give her one she'll never forget. Be careful, Tom warned. Linda's dangerous when she's cornered. So am I. I gathered the documents, my mind already racing with possibilities. And, unlike her previous victims, I know exactly what I'm dealing with. No more playing defense. It's time to show Linda what happens when she picks the wrong target. As I left the cafe, I felt lighter somehow. Not because the path ahead was clear, but because for the first time, I wasn't fighting this battle alone. And sometimes, that's all the advantage you need. Linda's annual charity gala was her crown jewel, the event where she paraded her perfect family in front of Seattle's elite. This year, she'd insisted I attend, despite our growing tension. Now I knew why. The ballroom sparkled with crystal and old money, but Linda's smile gleamed sharper than both as she clinked her glass for attention. I'd like to thank everyone for supporting our cause, helping families affected by mental illness. My champagne glass nearly slipped from my fingers. Next to me, Alex tensed. This cause is particularly close to our hearts, Linda continued, her eyes finding mine across the room. Sometimes these struggles touch our own families in ways we never expect. The room blurred. She wouldn't dare. My dear daughter-in-law's family has faced these challenges personally. Camille, darling, would you share your story? Your courage could inspire others. The silence felt like a noose. Dozens of faces turned toward me, expecting inspiration, expecting vulnerability, expecting me to play my assigned role in Linda's performance. I set my glass down with deliberate care. You're right, Linda. Family struggles with mental illness are important to discuss. I stepped forward, voice steady. Like the way some people use manipulation and gaslighting to control their loved ones. That's a form of emotional abuse, isn't it? Linda's smile flickered. Perhaps this isn't the appropriate venue, but you brought it up. I moved closer to the center of the room. Let's talk about it. About mothers who can't let go of their sons. About wives who document their mother-in-law's systematic emotional abuse. About husbands who check their wives' phones for their mothers. Camille. Ryan appeared at my elbow, voice low. You're making a scene. Am I? Or is your mother finally facing consequences? Linda recovered quickly, laughing lightly. You see what stress can do? Ryan, perhaps you should take Camille home. She's clearly overwhelmed. I'm not going anywhere. I pulled out my phone, opened my gallery. Actually, I'd love to share some documentation with everyone. Texts, videos, evidence of years of calculated... Ryan grabbed my wrist. Stop it. Now. The room went silent. Even Linda looked shocked at her son's grip on my arm. Choose carefully, Ryan, I said quietly. Everyone's watching. He released me like I'd burned him, but the damage was done. Whispers rippled through the crowd. Tom stepped forward, but Linda intercepted him. I think, she announced, we should give Camille some space. Clearly, she's having one of her episodes. Episodes? I laughed, the sound sharp enough to cut. Is that what we're calling resistance to abuse now? Tell me, Linda, did you call it an episode when you drove away Ryan's college girlfriend too? Or do you have different labels for different victims? That's enough! Ryan's voice cracked like a whip. Mom's right, you need help. The room spun slightly. In that moment, seeing Ryan stand beside his mother, watching their united front against me, something inside me, finally, irrevocably broke. You're right, I said softly. I do need help. I need a divorce lawyer. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Linda's triumphant smile slipped. This wasn't part of her script. And one more thing. I turned to address the room. Every single person here should know that Linda Thompson's charitable foundation? It's been misappropriating funds for years. Tom has the proof. I'm sure the IRS will be very interested. Linda went pale. You're lying. Am I? Check your files again, Linda. While you were busy digging up my family's history, you should have been watching your own back. I walked out of the ballroom, head high, Alex right behind me. Behind us, chaos erupted. Linda's carefully orchestrated event, dissolving into scandal and whispers. That wasn't part of the plan, Alex muttered as we reached my car. Plans change. I slid behind the wheel, hands shaking but voice steady. Call the lawyer. Tell him it's time to file everything, all of it. What about no more waiting, no more strategic patience? Linda wanted to expose my family's struggles with mental health? Fine. But now everyone knows about her family's struggles with fraud. The divorce papers sat on our kitchen table like a loaded gun. Ryan stared at them, his face a mask I no longer recognized. 3 days had passed since the gala, and Linda's empire was crumbling. The IRS investigation already underway, society whispers growing louder. You're really doing this? Ryan's voice was hollow. Destroying my family? Your family destroyed ours first. I moved toward the window, needing distance. Sign them. Mom's reputation is ruined. Her foundation was stealing from people who needed help. Your father proved it. The door burst open. Linda stormed in, mascara smeared, clutching her phone. You vindictive little... She thrust the screen at me. Look what you've done. Local news headlines screamed about the foundation's investigation. Donor statements, financial discrepancies, Tom's carefully gathered evidence, now public record. Truth hurts, doesn't it? I said quietly. She slapped me. The crack echoed through the kitchen. Ryan didn't move, didn't speak, just watched. You think you've won? Linda's voice shook. You think exposing the foundation makes you powerful? I raised him. I shaped him. He'll always choose me. I know. I touched my stinging cheek. That's why I'm leaving. Not without consequences. She pulled another paper from her bag. Remember when you signed those loan documents for the boutique renovation? The ones Ryan helped arrange? My stomach dropped. What about them? The signatures? They're problematic. Fraudulent, one might say. Ryan noticed it months ago, didn't you, darling? Ryan wouldn't meet my eyes. Mom, we agreed. Agreed what? To hold it over my head? The pieces clicked together. How long have you been planning this? Since you started pulling away, Ryan admitted. Mom suggested we needed insurance, in case you ever lost control. The room spun. They'd been setting me up for months, maybe longer. Every loan document, every signature, all potential weapons. So here's what happens. Linda smiled, composed again. You drop everything. The divorce, the allegations, all of it. Or Ryan reports the fraud. Your career, your reputation, everything you've built, gone. You'd let her do this? I asked Ryan. Watch your mother destroy me? You destroyed yourself, he said quietly. The emotional instability, the paranoid accusations. Stop! My voice cracked. Just stop pretending this is about my mental health. This is about control. It's always been about control. Linda moved closer, triumphant. Sign a statement. Recant everything you said about the foundation. Blame it on emotional stress. We'll get you help, make this all go away. I looked at the divorce papers, then at Ryan, the man I'd loved, now a stranger wearing my husband's face. Everything I'd built, everything I'd fought for, balanced on a knife's edge. My phone buzzed. A text from Tom. Don't give in. Trust me. Well? Linda demanded. What's it going to be? I picked up the divorce papers, hands steady despite everything. You know what the difference is between us, Linda? You destroy people because you're afraid of losing control. I'm destroying your control because I'm done being afraid. You'll lose everything, Ryan warned. I already have. I walked to the door, divorce papers clutched to my chest. But here's what you don't understand. I'd rather lose everything fighting back than keep anything by giving in. You'll regret this, Linda called after me. When the police come, when your career implodes. Maybe. I turned back one last time. But not as much as you're going to regret underestimating me. I walked out, got in my car, and drove to Alex's apartment. My hands shook as I called Tom. They have evidence of fraud, I said when he answered. They're going to... Let them try! His voice was steel. Remember those documents I showed you? There's more, much more, including proof that Ryan and Linda coerced those signatures. We just needed them to show their hand. I closed my eyes, breathing deeply. So what now? Now? I could hear him smile. Now we show them what real consequences look like. The boardroom of Ryan's company felt like a courtroom, with Linda and Ryan on one side of the table, me on the other. Tom sat beside me, a manila envelope between us. Linda's lawyer kept checking his phone, probably watching their foundation's stock price continue to plummet. Let's make this quick, Linda said, her composure cracking around the edges. We all know why we're here. Do we? I opened my laptop. Because I'm here to discuss corporate fraud, coercion, and witness tampering. What are you here for? Ryan shifted uncomfortably. Camille, please. We can handle this privately. Like you handled those loan documents? Tom's voice cut through the room. The ones you and your mother manipulated to set up my daughter-in-law? Linda's lawyer leaned forward. Careful with accusations. Oh, these aren't accusations. I turned my laptop around, displaying emails between Ryan and Linda, discussing their plan to forge my signatures, to create their insurance policy against me. These are facts, documented, time-stamped facts. The color drained from Linda's face. How did you get your emails? I smiled. Tom's not just an engineer. He's a very good one, especially when it comes to digital security. This is illegal, Linda's lawyer protested, accessing private... Actually, Tom interrupted, as a board member of the foundation and Ryan's father, I had full legal access. The real question is whether the SEC will be more interested in these emails or the foundation's creative accounting. Ryan stood abruptly. You're bluffing. You wouldn't destroy your own career just to... To what, Ryan? To protect myself? To expose the truth? I kept my voice steady. Unlike you, I'm not afraid of losing everything. I already did, the moment you chose her over me. Linda's laugh was brittle. So this is revenge? Destroying what I built because I saw through your act? No. I opened the manila envelope, sliding documents across the table. This is justice. Signed statements from 3 other women, your son's ex-girlfriends, all documenting your pattern of manipulation, emotional abuse, and financial coercion. You found them? For the first time, real fear flickered across Linda's face. Tom found them. Turns out they were all waiting for someone to finally stand up to you. Ryan grabbed the statements, scanning them frantically. Mom? What is this? It's nothing, darling. Just more of Camille's paranoid. Stop, Ryan's voice cracked. Just stop lying. Please. The silence that followed felt like glass about to shatter. Here's what happens next, I said quietly. You both signed these papers admitting to the fraud attempt against me. The Foundation investigation continues, but focuses solely on financial mismanagement, not criminal charges. You, I looked at Ryan, resign from the company quietly. And you, I turned to Linda, step down from all charity boards effective immediately. Or, Linda's voice was barely a whisper, or everything goes public. The emails, the statements, the fraud attempts, everything. Ryan slumped in his chair. You've won. Is that what you want to hear? No. I stood, gathering my things. What I wanted was a husband who chose me. What I wanted was a family who respected me. What I'm settling for is making sure you never do this to anyone else. Linda grabbed my arm as I turned to leave. You think this makes you strong? You're just proving how unstable. Take your hand off me. My voice could have frozen fire. Your gaslighting doesn't work anymore. Neither does your control. It's over, Linda. You lost. She released me like I'd burned her. As I reached the door, Ryan called out, I'm sorry, I should have... Should have what? Been stronger? Loved me more? Protected me? I didn't turn around. Save your apologies, Ryan. They're worth about as much as your promises. Walking out of that boardroom felt like emerging from underwater. Everything sharper, clearer, the weight of their manipulation finally lifting from my shoulders. Tom followed, carrying copies of everything. You okay? He asked. No. I smiled, surprising myself. But I will be. For the first time in years, I actually believe that. Behind us, through the closing door, I heard Linda's sharp intake of breath as her lawyer presumably explained just how completely she'd lost control. It wasn't quite justice, but it was enough. The boutique's grand reopening drew quite a crowd, though not for the reasons Linda would have expected. Society wives who once feared her influence now whispered behind their hands, watching me cut the ribbon with undisguised curiosity. The woman who took down Linda Thompson had become something of a local legend. Quite the turnout, Alex said, adjusting a display, though I noticed certain people are missing. I smoothed down my dress, one Linda had deemed unsuitable months ago. Tom called this morning. Said Ryan's finally moved out of their house, started therapy. And Linda? Still denying everything, last I heard. But her social calendar's surprisingly empty these days. The bell above the door chimed. I turned, greeting frozen on my lips as Ryan stepped inside. He looked different, thinner, older somehow. The crowd's chatter died down. I won't stay, he said quickly. I found this while packing. He held out a small box. Inside was the necklace I'd worn on our first date. Thought you might want it back. I don't. He nodded, unsurprised. I'm leaving Seattle. Fresh start, away from... He gestured vaguely, meaning clear. Away from Linda, away from the wreckage. Good for you. I told Mom I won't be calling for a while. That I need to figure out who I am without her voice in my head. He paused. Without her voice telling me who you were. And who am I, Ryan? Someone stronger than I ever gave you credit for. He set the box down. Someone I should have protected, not helped tear down. A young woman entered the boutique, glancing between us uncertainly. I recognized her, one of Linda's previous victims, now a successful attorney who'd helped build our case. Your 10 o'clock's here, Alex murmured. Ryan took the hint. I just wanted to say what you did, exposing everything. It wasn't just revenge, it was revolution. All these women Mom hurt over the years, they're finally speaking up. The whole system she built, the way she controlled everyone, it's crumbling. That wasn't my goal. Wasn't it? He smiled sadly. Maybe not consciously. But you did something none of us were brave enough to do. You stood up to her. Really stood up to her. I stood up for myself, I corrected. There's a difference. He nodded, turning to leave. At the door, he paused. I'm sorry, Camille. Not just for what happened, but for who I was. Who I let her make me. I know. I met his gaze steadily. But your apology doesn't change anything. No, he agreed. But maybe that's the point. Maybe some things shouldn't be fixed, just learned from. After he left, Alex squeezed my shoulder. You okay? I watched through the window as Ryan walked away, shoulders straight but heavy with recognition. Behind me, Linda's former victim, now my client, waited to discuss her own journey to freedom. Around us, the boutique hummed with new energy, transformed from Linda's battlefield into my sanctuary. You know what's funny? I turned to Alex. For years, I thought winning meant making Linda suffer like she made me suffer, making Ryan understand how much he hurt me. But now I realize winning isn't about them at all. It's about me, about who I became while fighting back. The young attorney stepped forward, others gathering around her. Women Linda had tried to break, now standing tall in a space I'd reclaimed. Not just customers, survivors, warriors. Ready to get started? I asked them, and their collective strength filled the room like sunlight after a storm. This wasn't the ending I'd imagined when I first started fighting back. It was better, because revenge might have taken Linda down. But justice? Justice had lifted all of us up. I picked up Ryan's box, the necklace inside catching the light. Not a reminder of what I'd lost, but of what I'd found. My voice, my strength, my truth. I handed it to Alex. Add it to the donation pile, I said. Someone else might need it more. Someone just starting their own revolution.
I am Maggie. I am 24 years old and an office worker, about to get married. I live at my parents' home, but I would prefer to leave even before I get married. The reason is that I don't get along well with my family. My family revolves around my younger sister, Abby, who is 2 years younger than me. My existence to them is almost like air, no, maybe slightly different. Mainly, for the convenience of my mother and sister, I become either invisible or a wallet. Maggie, I hate to ask, but could you prepare $300 for me? My mother asks for money very casually, without showing any sign of feeling bad about it. I contribute $1,000 to the household every month though. My father is still actively employed as a manager, and he earns quite well. My mother also works part-time 3 days a week. With my $1,000 added, we should be able to live reasonably well, though not luxuriously. However, about halfway through the month, I usually hear, "We're a little short. Could you add some more?" I'd like to know what they spend the money on, but as a child, I was never favored by my mother, and she doesn't really answer my questions. I've tried asking several times, but the conversation always ends with, "When I say we're a little short, that's all." You've never lived on your own, have you? Life is tough, full of unexpected things, and that's the end of that. It's unfair to say I've never lived alone. Ever since entering university, I've been saying I want to be independent. Each time, my mother has refused. Why rent an apartment when you have a home? It's not like the university is that far. Or it's dangerous for a young woman to live alone. It's safer and cheaper to stay at home. If you live on your own, you can't save much of your salary, and so on. Despite all this, I am often relied upon for money. They're probably just pretending to be concerned, but actually see me as a cash cow. I should just leave my parents' house, but how should I put it? When I give money, my mother beams at me. If I meet her additional demands, she praises me, saying, "As expected, you're reliable, Maggie." It feels good to be praised. And even though I know I'm being treated as a cash cow, I can't leave my family home. Maybe I'm quite sick. The only person who really seems to worry about me is my paternal grandmother. I've heard that she has adored me since I was born. My father once said, "When your grandma heard you were born, she waited in the hospital without sleeping." She was the first to hold you and was so happy, saying what a good child. Looking back, maybe that wasn't so good. My mother doesn't say anything, but she's not very close to my grandmother. So, I can't help but suspect there's something about the circumstances of my birth that bothers her. Abby, on the other hand, is absolutely doted on. Cute clothes, accessories, almost anything she wants. My mother used to buy them all when she was in elementary school. When I wanted a dress like One Piece, my mother immediately said no. Why can't I? I want to wear it because it's cute. Where would you wear such flashy, frilly clothes? Do you think you're a princess or something? If you wore this to school, you'd be the laughingstock. There's a way to say no, isn't there? I really thought so. My mother always complains about what I want, not just ignoring my wishes. By the way, the dress like One Piece was bought for Abby in a different size. How cute! Mom, I want to wear this outfit. Looks nice. It'll definitely suit you, Abby. Right after I was denied, it was decided in front of me. It's one of my oldest memories of my mother's differential treatment. But there are probably more. Forgetting them is the only saving grace. My father never says anything about my mother's attitude. Even when I cried to him, he'd irresponsibly say, "Your grandmother will dote on you, right?" According to my father, it's fair because my grandmother dotes on me and my mother on my sister. Moreover, my father also favors my sister. Abby has learned the wrong way from my mother's attitude. She obviously looks down on me. Maggie, lend me some money. My mother doesn't say lend, but my sister is different. It's obvious she has no intention of returning it, yet she casually says, "Lend it to me." I am a full-time employee, but Abby only works part-time. 2 days a week for 3 hours each. It's clear that our incomes are different. Normally, she might think to work harder to earn more herself. But my sister takes shortcuts, trying to easily get what she wants from me. What will you use it for? Does it matter? It does matter. I can't just carelessly lend you important money without knowing what it's for. You've never paid me back even once. If I tell you what it's for, will you lend it to me? Then I'll tell you. I'm going to buy a new designer bag. The way she says I'll tell you, as if she's doing me a favor, is all too familiar and disheartening. Regardless of whether I know the reason or not, I have no choice. If I refuse, Abby will say, "Okay, fine. I'll ask Mom," and that's what happens. Then my mother generously opens her wallet. And the burden is pushed onto me with a request to add a bit more. If I refuse further, Abby will inevitably cry to my mother that Maggie won't lend me any. And I end up being lectured at length. So, really, there's no need to ask why she needs the money. It's just my small way of resisting being treated as a mere source of money. Brian, my fiancé, is aware of this dysfunctional relationship. When we met and started dating, he said he was thinking about marriage. I wanted to hide my relationship with my mother and sister from him. But thinking about the damage it could cause if he found out later, I reluctantly opened up to him. I told him, "Brian, there's something I want you to know about not being cherished by my mother, how unbelievably favored my sister is, and the financial burden that falls on me." At first, Brian was confused and said, "Really? Can parents make such a difference?" He seemed not to believe me. However, when he visited my family home for a marriage introduction, my mother blatantly revealed her true feelings, saying, "Wow, what a nice person. Isn't Abby good enough? Why does it have to be Maggie?" Well, Maggie's good at earning, that's her merit. We want her to stay at home. This overt statement made Brian recoil in shock, and he understood the situation. Brian is recognized as handsome and works for a major corporation. I could tell he was desired as a potential husband for Abby. And Abby herself didn't seem entirely displeased. Which, despite being my sister, made me feel quite uncomfortable. Fortunately, Brian was not swayed by my mother and sister, and with a wry smile, he firmly stated, "In fact, I have decided. I will make Maggie happy." I remember clearly how my mother muttered under her breath, "You have no eye for women." Abby seemed to lose interest in Brian right away. She could always get new things, whereas I was given her hand-me-downs, which might have played a part in her attitude. Maybe she felt like she didn't need her sister's hand-me-ups? Thanks to this, I didn't have to worry about my fiancé being snatched away by my sister. When I told my grandmother, she cried with joy. Taking Brian's hand, she pleaded, "Please take good care of Maggie. Make her happy for a long time." Brian was moved to tears and gently promised, "Yes, I will take care of Maggie." I was truly happy at that moment. Wedding preparations take time. The ceremony was set for 6 months later. I seriously wanted to move out and live with Brian even before the wedding. But I could see my mother's strong opposition and gave up. The wedding preparations are slowly progressing. My mother is not involved, and my sister doesn't say much either. Those two only show interest in me for financial reasons. And otherwise, they don't care much. They often ask, "You'll continue working after marriage, right?" Yes, I plan to work full-time until we have children. After that, maybe part-time. I'm not asking about your life plan. Can you continue to send money home? That's what matters. Even after getting married, they expect me to keep contributing financially to the home. I have no such intention, but to avoid trouble, I just nod along non-committally. It's clear I'm only seen as a money courier. Annoyed by my mother's behavior, I focused on saving. I'm not particularly excited about the wedding itself. I'd rather use that money for our new life. Brian and I agree on this. However, given his respectable position in a major company, we can't have a shoddy wedding. We need to have a proper ceremony to uphold his dignity. Go on a honeymoon and invest in our new home, which will require a significant amount of money. But being treated as a cash cow by my mother and sister is a headache. Still, I found a way to alleviate these problems. My grandmother, wanting to celebrate my marriage, prepared a large sum of money for me, as much as $30,000. An enormous amount for a wedding gift. Grandma, is this okay? It's neither good nor bad. I've been saving for this. I wanted to live long enough to see you in your bridal dress. And you found a good husband. Please let me celebrate. My grandmother came to my family home specifically to give me the wedding gift directly. She preferred to hand it over in person rather than just transfer it via the bank. I was very grateful. However, my mother and sister witnessed the entire exchange, which gave me a very bad feeling. "Dad, I'm afraid to keep this amount of money in my room. Could I use your safe?" There's a sizable safe in my father's study, mainly because his work sometimes requires him to bring home large sums of money. It's rare, but when needed, it's crucial. He agreed to let me use it. The safe is secured with a numeric lock, and I don't know the combination. After my grandmother left, I handed the celebration money to my father to put in the safe, feeling my mother's piercing gaze. I was undecided whether to deposit it in the bank. or to start paying various wedding-related expenses. Wanting to consult Brian, a week passed with the money still in the safe. The day after we decided how to use it, I came home to find my mother and sister smirking at me in the living room. What's going on? Hey, Maggie, look at this. With a malicious smile, my sister flaunted a bag at me. That was a new model from her favorite brand. I remembered it being quite expensive. Did you buy it? Mom bought it for me. Huh, good for you. I was surprised by how monotonously I responded. However, Abby's meaningful smirk didn't stop, nor did my mother's. What was going on? What is it? It's not just this. Look, a necklace, pumps, a new dress, and even cosmetics. Wait, what? I was shocked. Abby's favorite brand is a famous high-end one, with bags typically costing around $10,000, and pumps are never under $1,000. I wondered how much the total cost was. Mom, just because Abby asked you doesn't mean you should. Do we really have the financial leeway to splurge on brand items like that? There was leeway a week ago. My mother also smirked. Then I remembered. She had been staring intently at the $30,000 I received from Grandma. No way. It felt good, spending $30,000 in one day. Yeah, we used Grandma's $30,000 happily. The $30,000 in the safe meant for the wedding. I used it for Abby. You don't mind, huh? I'm not interested in your wedding. It's more important to make Abby look good so she can attract a good marriage proposal. My mother and Abby started giggling, looking at each other. I was holding my head because I realized they were making a huge mistake. The $30,000 from the safe. That's not my money, it's not even for the wedding. What are you talking about? Did the wedding getting cancelled panic you? No, that's not it. As for the $30,000 from Grandma, I've already made payments here and there today, and the rest I've deposited in the bank. That was the reason I had been out. After discussing with Brian, we made payments for the initial wedding expenses, including a dress for a change of attire to please my grandmother. Of course, I didn't use all of it. The remaining money was definitely going to be deposited. My mother and Abby did misunderstand. Then suddenly, hey, where did the $30,000 in the safe go? My father came running into the living room, his face pale. $30,000? What's going on here? That's what I want to know. Why is the $30,000 gone? That was contract money I had to take to the company. My father works in sales for condominiums, and for big purchases, contract money can run into several tens of thousands. Normally, this is transferred to a bank. But occasionally a client prefers to pay in cash to avoid hefty fees. When he receives cash late at night, he can't bring it into the closed office. So he keeps it in the safe at home. After I received the wedding gift from grandmother, my father also closed a deal. The contract money was also $30,000. So my mother mistakenly used the money meant for my father's company deposit. My mother and Abby, realizing their mistake, turned even paler than white. That wasn't Maggie's money? You idiot! What are we going to do now? If it stays this way, it'll be as if I embezzled. What? You must be kidding. If I were just kidding, would I be this panicked? You've really done it now. My father shouted at them, ordering them to return the purchases for a refund or to get cash if they couldn't. Abby cried and resisted, but even my mother couldn't play favorites this time. She forcefully took the luxury items. They tried desperately to recover the $30,000, but time was short. My father needed to take the money to the company by tomorrow. Ultimately, they were only able to get about $10,000 at a pawn shop. My father had to plead with grandmother over the phone. I can help, but there's a condition. You need to deal with your wife and Abby. Deal with them how? Figure it out yourself. Didn't your wife coldly treat Maggie out of spite for me? I know she's always resented me for holding Maggie first when she was born. It's fine if she hates me, but what did Maggie do to deserve this? If you hate the mother-in-law, you hate your own child too. What kind of reasoning is that? Chastised by grandmother, my father seemed to finally see the light. He called my mother and Abby and declared, "I'm divorcing you, and Abby, you need to become independent," and told them to leave the house. They cried and screamed hysterically, but my father was unforgiving. How can I work now, after being a housewife all these years? Dad, why me too? Enough. I've let you two get away with too much. No more coddling. My father firmly stated his position and apologized to me. Thus, my mother and Abby were expelled from the family home, and now live together in a cheap, run-down apartment. My mother hasn't found a job, and Abby is doing part-time work. I heard their life is extremely hard. This incident made me resolve to truly separate from my parents. And as a lesson from my mother and sister, I vowed never to play favorites when I have children.
When the salesman at the luxury car dealership saw how we were dressed, he changed his attitude. "Are you sure you're in the right store? We came here to buy a car. Poor potato farmers. Get out. Go back home." His utterly unreasonable and arrogant response infuriated my husband. "All right then, we are leaving. Let's go, Diane." Yes. My husband and I left the store. This salesman, who looked down on us completely, would soon be surprised to learn what would become of him. My name is Diane Anderson, 52 years old. I run a farm that I inherited from my parents. Now that our children have their own families, it's just my husband and me. That said, our eldest son and his wife also farm with us, living not too far away. The vast northern lands with their clear air are where I was born and raised. My husband Tom, who will be 55 soon, has completely adapted to this rural life as well. He likes it here even more than I do now and can't imagine living anywhere else. I'm very happy that he has come to love my hometown so much. However, when we got married, I never thought my husband, who was a company employee in the city, would take over my parents' farm. It has been 20 years since we moved here and started farming. I had moved to the city for university and stayed in the city for work, where I met my husband at the workplace. To be precise, he was working at the headquarters, and I was at a subsidiary, but we met through work when he was on assignment and started dating. Our relationship went smoothly, and we got married, of course planning to live somewhere commutable to work. His family being from the Northeast area, I intended to settle in the city. When I moved to New York, I had vaguely thought I'd return to my hometown someday, but I was the one who decided on my jobs and marriage. I went home every summer and Christmas, and I had no regrets. Our life took a turn in the 5th year of our marriage. Already blessed with 2 children, we were living happily, though busily, when I noticed something was off with my husband. He looked tired and was lacking in energy. He had lost his appetite. Although he used to go straight to see our children sleeping when he got home, he often forgot that and just stared blankly. "What's wrong? You haven't been eating much lately. Is work tough?" "Oh, sorry. I've been a bit busy and tired." "Don't worry about it." Even though he said that, I was concerned. When we finally had time to talk properly, the reason turned out to be a change of his boss. He had always had a smooth working relationship, but the new boss was prideful and mean, and for some reason, he picked on my husband, mocking and insulting him daily. As an employee, my husband said some unreasonable things were inevitable, but it was hard to see my kind and easygoing husband so down. Around the same time, I got a call from my mother at home saying that my father had broken a bone and was hospitalized. "We'll be in trouble because we can't farm for a while." Well, we have to manage somehow, but it's hard without the main support. "Is Dad okay?" While worrying about my father, an idea suddenly struck me. Why not start farming with my husband as well? Whenever we visited my hometown, my husband would say how great it would be to live amid such nature. I knew starting farming from scratch wasn't easy, but fortunately my parents were there. We could learn from the people closest to us. It felt much better than continuing to work under stress and endure at his company. Taking a chance, I brought it up with my husband, and he was surprised by my suggestion. "I see. I'll think about it." I wasn't sure what he would decide since it meant moving and completely changing our lifestyle, but by the next day, he had made up his mind. "I'll go along with your idea, Diane. Life is long. I want to work with a smile and pride for the sake of our children as well. Let's jump into a new environment." Thus, my husband and I moved with our young children and started a farming life in my hometown. My parents were thrilled to welcome their daughter and son-in-law who wanted to take over the farm. My father was a well-known potato farmer in the area, so not only did we get to learn agriculture, but his connections were also very helpful. However, getting used to the unfamiliar farm work was initially tough. We were covered in mud every day as we plowed the fields. Handling the machinery was difficult, and our bodies were our assets, leaving no time for rest. But my husband seemed happier than when he was an office worker. Even when I say I'm tired, it's completely different from when I was at the company. My body might be tired, but my mind is clear, and it's a good kind of fatigue, he often said. "Because you suggested it back then, I am who I am today. Thank you always for supporting me, Diane," he would say. As time passed while we engaged in farming, both his mind and body regained their health, which made me incredibly happy. 20 years have passed since we moved. Originally, my parents' farm had a stable income, but now it has grown even larger, not only from what my parents and grandparents built, but also from the new ventures started by my husband. However, we didn't achieve this alone. It was done with the knowledge and connections inherited from my parents and the help of many people. One day, when we were buying an additional mini truck for farming, my husband suggested we also buy a new car for private use. The area is pleasant for drives, and there are many scenic places just a short drive away. Since we're at it, Let's find a car we both like and go on many trips together, he said. He had already done some preliminary looking, and today we were going to choose the color and make the purchase. Excited, we headed to the city dealer. As we were about to enter the store, a salesman came to the entrance to greet us. "Welcome, dear customers," he said in a very polite tone, but his expression quickly changed to one of confusion when he looked up and saw us. He eyed my husband and me from top to bottom. Confused by the salesman's dramatic change, I remembered that we had come straight from the fields in our work clothes. That explained it. We didn't have time today, and we came directly after finishing our work. We were even still in our boots. Of course, we had washed our hands cleanly and, naturally, knocked off any mud or dirt as a matter of manners. Such attire isn't that unusual around here. The staff who helped us last time had no issues, but this salesman's reaction was quite exaggerated. Maybe he's new? He doesn't seem that young, though. Are you sure you're in the right store? The salesman blurted out the first thing. Yes, this is the right place. We came here to buy a car, my husband responded, and the salesman's eyes widened. Then he burst out laughing. Oops, my apologies. Do you even know how much our cars cost? Of course. We've looked at the catalog and came to see them the other day. Well, maybe you should start with buying some clothes first, like a jacket or a shirt. Those might be more within your reach than a car. We came here to buy a car, not clothes. If we wanted clothes, we would have gone to a clothing store in the first place. Well, we're here because we want to buy a car. We've even made a reservation to purchase one here. My husband, likely thinking the same thing, repeated his statement, and the salesman snorted dismissively. A reservation? Please, save the lies. I get it. Men aspire to luxury cars. But coming here in such filthy attire to a luxury car dealership? I can't sell to customers without money. His tone became harsher. What a rude attitude. Just because our clothes were casual, well, work clothes. But such a response was unprecedented. We can certainly pay properly. Talk is cheap. I was handpicked by the headquarters to turn this branch around. I'm the ace. I have an eye for customers. He boasted, looking at us intensely, then testing us with a question. Well, what's the most expensive thing you've bought recently? Let me see. My husband hesitated, exchanging glances with me, then answered. Oh, we don't really buy many things, but last winter, we took a family trip to Cancun for a month. That was quite a luxury. Yes, we invited everyone who's been working hard, and it was fun. We're discussing taking a domestic trip this winter instead if we purchase a new car here, I added, trying to shift the conversation back on track. The salesman burst out laughing again. Cancun? Even the lady is rich in fantasies. What a grand fairy tale. Let me guess, you work in agriculture? Yes, we mainly grow potatoes. When my husband answered with a smile, the salesman burst out laughing again. Exactly. You really do look like potato farmers. Potatoes suit you well. Saying this, he laughed uproariously. But our cars definitely don't suit you. I mean, expensive cars are out of reach for poor potato farmers like you. He gestured dismissively with his hand. I was finally fed up. Excuse me, your rudeness since the moment we arrived is unwarranted. We might be dressed like this because we didn't have time to change. But my husband indeed plans to purchase a car from here. Ma'am, you too, wearing a jumpsuit and boots. The ladies who come here usually wear brand dresses and jewelry. Well, brands wouldn't suit you anyway, but you could at least get your husband to buy you a skirt. At that moment, I heard my husband's demeanor change next to me. There wasn't actually a sound, though, but I could tell after all these years together. This egregiously rude salesman had now truly angered my normally calm husband. Unaware, he continued arrogantly, "Look, poor potato farmers, just leave. Go back home." "Is that so? I see. That's how you treat customers." "Huh? We're leaving then. Let's go, Diane." "Yes." My husband and I left the store. The salesman, who had completely looked down on us, laughed and said, "We'll be waiting for your return. No, don't ever come back." He had no idea what was about to happen to him. As soon as we left the store, my husband pulled out his smartphone and made a call. It was probably to the manager of that dealership, or maybe even the regional manager. Not just the store manager, but my husband has connections with the regional manager as well. After all, our family has purchased dozens of cars from them over the years. Early the next morning, our doorbell rang insistently. When I opened the door, there stood the car manufacturer's regional manager and the salesman from yesterday. "Oh, Patrick, you came all this way?" "That's quite early." My husband spoke to him casually. "Mr. Anderson, I'm truly sorry for what happened. This man's mishandling has caused you great distress, and I apologize for that." The regional manager apologized deeply. Next to him, the same salesman looked perplexed. "What? You brought me here because of that poor farmer from yesterday? That annoying customer I told you about? All they did was joke about spending a month in Cancun in winter." The salesman said this carelessly, causing the regional manager's face to turn pale. "Jim, you've really done it now." "Huh? What did you do?" "A reservation for 20 cars has been canceled." "What? What are you talking about?" "That's what I'm trying to find out. Why do you think I dropped everything and rushed over here?" "Why would that be?" "Because of you, all 20 reservations were canceled. And they're even switching to another company for the trucks they always buy from us." The regional manager was holding his head. "If we lose business with Mr. Anderson, we're finished." "Wait, who is Mr. Anderson?" "This gentleman is the representative of the famous Anderson Vegful." "What? What do you mean?" "You don't know Mr. Anderson? He's the one." "No way." Mr. Anderson's company supplies vegetables to major corporations in the States. The potatoes for that leading potato chip brand. The tomatoes for that popular vegetable juice. And recently, their oranges and fruits have collaborated with trendy smoothie shops. "What? That trendy smoothie that celebrities are promoting and going viral?" It seemed even he realized the gravity of his mistake, as he exclaimed loudly, "Mr. Anderson has been a wonderful farmer for generations, but he has also been flexible in trying new initiatives, constantly improving his performance. He has contracts with renowned major corporations." Huh, this guy. There's no one in this northern land who doesn't know Mr. Anderson, including his predecessors. So, the Cancun story too. Yes, it gets very snowy here in the winter, and there's not much to do. So we went to Cancun for a month with the family. It's not just us, right? I think the Morris family went to Paris. Everyone works hard every day and deserves a reward during their time off. My husband and I responded cheerfully. That's unbelievable. To come here dressed like that, it's inconceivable. What's inconceivable is your distorted prejudice. The regional manager scolded him. Well then, what have I done? The man who had been boasting in front of us suddenly quieted down. Indeed, while my parents' potato farm had been stable in earnings, simply wholesaling crops was no different from before. With the changing times and the evolving American diet, it's said that agriculture's future is in danger if we continue without change. So, my husband and I began to think. First, we thought about how to transform unmarketable, ugly vegetables into saleable products. We started processing them into vegetable juices and sweets, or selling them as sets at a bargain with the slogan, ugly in appearance, but the taste is the same. The vegetables grown in our inherited fields taste excellent, even if they look imperfect. Initially, our goal was to increase sales and recycle vegetables, but this initiative was a big hit. A famous cooking researcher liked our vegetables. Once cooked, appearance doesn't matter. What counts is the taste, which is excellent for the price. He promoted us in his magazine column and on social media, and our value packs sold out in no time. We had to scramble to make more sets of the misshapen vegetables. Our original vegetable juices and dressings became hits after popular young actors and idols mentioned them as their favorites. Later, upscale urban supermarkets approached us wanting to sell our vegetables, leading to increased production and wholesale. Sales continued to grow, and we even opened our own stores. Over the years, we opened more stores, and now our son and his wife have also started selling online, which is doing very well. Thanks to everyone, our annual income has been in the billions for the past few years. By this point, my husband is more a business owner than just a farmer, though he cherishes being in the fields more than anything. I'll always stick to farming, he says, leaving the business aspects to our son, his wife, and our trusted executives. Whether opening new stores or starting online sales, every new venture brought its challenges and busy periods. We truly owe a lot to our hardworking staff who spared no effort, even losing sleep. It's because of everyone's efforts that we have what we have today. That's why my husband thought of giving cars as special bonuses to our son and the team members who helped so much. And for Diane, who I appreciate the most, I want to buy a nice car, he said. So, the cars for everyone else had already been reserved. Patrick, it's a pity. We trusted your dealership since my father-in-law's time, but we can't continue with such treatment from your salesman. I'm truly sorry. The regional manager apologized deeply while the salesman, pale-faced, began to fidget. Mr. Anderson, I sincerely apologize for what happened. Please, don't cancel. Would you consider buying from our store? I refuse. You judged people solely by their appearance and profession, and even insulted my wife. I don't want to buy important cars for my colleagues from a salesman with such biased views. We've already arranged with another manufacturer. What? We will no longer need your services. My husband cut him off sharply, and the salesman began to backpedal. Fooling around, coming to buy a luxury car dressed like that. It's absurd. It's your fault for not understanding time, place, and occasion, even coming in work clothes and boots. What are you starting now, you mere clerk? Manager, isn't that the truth? What? The regional manager sighed deeply. Mr. Anderson is exceptional, but there are many other wonderful farmers in this area. They are all our customers. It's normal here to come in work clothes. What? I couldn't forgive this man's disrespectful attitude towards my husband, and I told him off with a smile. It seems the one lacking common sense was you. After that, his bad reputation spread quickly. That man doesn't know the common sense of the North. Hasn't he seen the greenhouse at Mr. Anderson's large farm? There are luxury cars parked next to the tractors. The Andersons have always loved cars. I heard there were many other customers he had treated rudely, and complaints had reached the headquarters. It turned out the salesman's claim I was handpicked by the headquarters to turn this branch around. I'm the ace was a complete lie. He had caused problems at his previous store and had been transferred here after causing a scandal involving inappropriate relationships. This only worsened his situation, leading to his dismissal for causing significant damage to the company. The scandal led his estranged wife to finally decide on divorce. As for my husband, the cars he recently purchased made our son, his wife, and our employees very happy. Seeing my husband's happy face, knowing everyone was pleased, made me even happier. From my own tough experiences as an office worker, I want to make sure that everyone can work happily. My husband often says, seeing everyone's smiles is the greatest joy and motivation for him. I deeply respect my husband for that, and I'm truly glad I dared to suggest we move all those years ago. Although starting in agriculture was challenging at first, all our hard work and efforts now feel rewarded. Our business continues to thrive, and our sales keep growing. We are currently brainstorming products that even children who dislike vegetables will enjoy eating. And next week, our new car will arrive. Where shall we go in our new car? Munching on potato chips made from our own potatoes, I looked at my husband's smiling face.
My name is Tracy Manning. I'm 33 years old. It's been 3 years since I married my husband, John, who is a year older than me. We've struggled to have children, so we decided to start fertility treatments. It was during this challenging time that I discovered my husband's betrayal. What is the meaning of this? Were you both deceiving me? The notification on my husband's smartphone was how I learned of his betrayal. Yes, my husband was having an affair with my real sister, Katie. And that wasn't all. Actually, Katie is pregnant with my child now. So, I want a divorce. What? Katie was pregnant with my husband's child. Those were the last words I wanted to hear. You're kidding, right? Why would you do this? Sorry. I knew you were undergoing fertility treatments, but it just happened. It's still early in the pregnancy, so we don't know the gender yet. But here, this is my ultrasound. This image shows our child. Isn't it cute? The ultrasound photo Katie handed me showed a very small life. Looking at that photo, I trembled with anger. Don't joke about this. You never helped with the fertility treatments. To do something like this behind my back. It's too cruel. The joke's on you. What about me is joking? Normal women get pregnant without fertility treatments, like Katie did. And yet, you haven't gotten pregnant even once in 3 years of marriage. Fertility treatments aren't free, you know. All the tests and treatments. Do you have any idea how much of my money has gone into this? I never wanted to support that. What's so wrong about leaving a woman who can't get pregnant and going to another? Excuse me? Tracy, you've been overindulging because he works for a major company on the fast track to success, haven't you? What? I think marriage is about helping each other. But if you ask for too much, it becomes a burden, right? John told me, there's no rest even when I come home. Weren't you pushing him too hard with the fertility treatments? Honestly, I think his affair is your fault. As he said, you can't complain if he goes to another woman. You say I was pushing him. John has never. Katie is right. Being with you was painful for me. I want to be happy with my new family. I'll pay whatever it takes for compensation. Just sign these divorce papers and get out. Looking down on me with disdain, the two of them were too much to bear. However, holding on to this marriage wouldn't bring me happiness. Understood, I accept the divorce. With that, I signed the divorce papers, took the compensation, and left the house. That was about a year ago. After learning the truth, both of our parents were furious, of course. However, they eventually resigned themselves to accepting the two's marriage since Katie was already pregnant. Since then, I've cut ties with them and blocked all their contacts. I don't know where or what they are doing now. Then, one day, something happened. Hello? It's your sister. Are you doing well? A call came from an unknown number, and it was surprisingly my sister. Why would you go out of your way to contact me from an unknown number? I blocked you because I didn't want to communicate with you. What? Are you still angry? Don't sulk forever, just come and celebrate with your sister. Celebrate? Actually, the child that was in my stomach back then was just born. That's why I want you to come and see. Why should I? This child is genuinely your niece, isn't she? Sure, we've had our differences. But forget about the past and come see your cute niece. Despite everything, my sister brazenly invited me to meet my niece. She probably wants to show off that she is everything I ever wanted. Normally, I wouldn't accept such an invitation from her. However, after some thought, I decided to accept her invitation. All right. I've had something I wanted to tell you too, so this is perfect. When should I visit? Oh, then, how about next Saturday? Next Saturday, then. I'll bring a gift when I come. Okay. My sister seemed a bit surprised that I accepted her invitation. But she didn't ask why. However, she would soon deeply regret inviting me home just to show off. And just like that, the promised day arrived. Welcome. My sister greeted me with a beaming smile as she came out of the house I once lived in, holding her newborn niece, who was sleeping peacefully in her arms. The milk just finished. Come on in. The first thing I saw when I entered was my ex-husband, whom I hadn't seen in about a year. His disdainful look hadn't changed. "It's been a while, Tracy. Have you been well? We've been really busy every day since the child was born. But we're truly happy. I know it must be tough being alone. But I really appreciate that you accepted the divorce. Thanks. That's a bit much. It would be sad for Tracy, who is single now, wouldn't it? She even came today, enduring the hardship." The two of them mocked me as they spoke. "By the way, what's the gift you mentioned on the phone? Is it inside that paper bag you're holding? Since having a child, I've realized how expensive it is to raise one. My husband works for a major company, so we still have some leeway. I think you should be prepared too. Well, unless you get the chance, considering your divorce was due to infertility." That's when it happened. The doorbell echoed throughout the room. There weren't supposed to be any other visitors. My sister, puzzled, opened the front door. And standing there was. "Excuse me, I think my wife might be here already." "Huh? This is my husband." "What?" "Yes, the person who arrived was my husband." Both my ex-husband and my sister were shocked by this fact. "I came by car, but couldn't find a parking spot, so I dropped off alone first." "Did you find a parking spot?" "Yes, someone nearby showed me where to park." "That's good. Wait a minute. You got married?" "Yes." "When?" "About 3 months ago." "Why didn't you tell me?" "Why would I? After what happened, we cut ties. I didn't think I'd need to tell you. And I never thought I'd be invited here. But why would such a tall, handsome man be with someone like you?" "Where did you meet?" "Well, that's a story for later. Can we come in for now? We haven't seen each other in a while, so there must be a lot to catch up on." "Right." And so, we were led into the living room again. "Wow, nice living room. It's fresh compared to ours." "Is that so?" "Yes, our living room is combined with the dining area." Hearing this, my ex-husband smirked unpleasantly and said, "Living and dining together means it's not a very big house." Stunned that I was married, my ex-husband seized the opportunity to assert dominance. And he continued to try to one-up us by saying, "As you might have heard from her, we used to be married. This house was bought during that time." Well, there were some stretches. But I think I'm the only one in our age group who owns a house this big. Is that so? It's indeed a big house. You seem quite young and very successful. Yes. Well, do you know Company A? Everyone knows this major corporation. I work there. But I just handed in my resignation. Actually, I've secured a job at Company B, which is even bigger than A. Originally, Company B is a stable, large corporation. But it's been growing a lot recently, so I decided to join the wave. I actually start working there next month, but anticipating a salary increase. I bought a new apartment in the city. I'm planning to move the week after next. So, if you like, shall we sell this house? I hate to say it, but it seems like you're not living very well. She's my ex-wife, and I think there's some kind of fate in this, so don't hesitate. Right? It's okay, isn't it, Katie? That sounds fine. But, isn't it a bother to sell such a house to someone who isn't living well? Well, that's true. By the way, what do you do for work? Ah, it's nothing significant. Did it become hard to say after I mentioned my job change to Company B? Don't hold back. I'm not expecting much. My ex-husband said this and laughed crudely. Is that so? Then I'll speak without hesitation. Excuse me? I came here today because there's something I need to tell you. What is that about? Don't you remember me? We've met once before. My ex-husband pondered. Since you don't seem to remember, let me introduce myself. I am Robert, the executive director at Company B. What? Yes, my husband is the executive director of Company B, the company to which he planned to transfer. Looking at the business card my husband presented, my ex-husband and sister turned pale and were at a loss for words. Why would the executive director? Normally, I would notify you by phone or in writing, but I heard about it from my wife. I decided to come here with her. Notification about what? Then, my husband told him. Mr. Manning, I regret to inform you that we have decided to rescind your job offer. A job offer cancellation. Why? Do you have any idea why this might be happening? I have no clue. I've lived my life earnestly and have always been diligent at work. I believe I was highly regarded at Company A, respected by both my superiors and subordinates. I can't imagine why you would suddenly cancel my job offer. Ignoring my ex-husband's confusion, my husband gave me a knowing look. I took the cue and pulled out a document from the paper bag I had brought and handed it to my husband. What is that document? This document contains the reasons for the cancellation of your job offer. Before you read it, are you sure you have no idea why your offer might be rescinded? I think not. All right. Please read through this document. Handing over the document, my husband watched as my ex-husband hesitantly began to read. Gradually, his face turned ashen. Why, how could this be? We received reports from our employees about an account leaking information about companies A and B on social media. This account also posted confidential information only someone from Company A would know, as well as vulgar remarks about female employees and other indecent content. The account listed in this document, it's yours, isn't it? His job offer from Company B was cancelled because of the content he had posted on social media weeks ago. What? Information about our company is being posted on social media? After receiving this report from a Company B employee, my husband immediately checked the social media, and there unbelievable posts were made. Finally got the job offer from Company B. Time to say goodbye to Company A. Some still doubt I work at Company A, so I'll show them the project plan. I designed all these products. You guys must have bought them too. Here's the department head's pay slip. Found it in the hallway, so I'm sharing it. Here's a photo of the women's changing room. Since I'm quitting, it's probably past the statute of limitations, right? Honestly, the interview at Company B was a breeze. Looks like I'll be able to climb the ladder easily. If anyone's curious, once I join Company B, I'll post their info too. It seems there were numerous other posts including degrading actions towards female employees of Company A and derogatory comments about women. Too appalling to mention here. Shocked by the extent of the misconduct, my husband reported it immediately to the CEO. The CEO then ordered an investigation to find out who made these posts. It turned out that the person who had posted them was him, who had just secured a position at Company B. Subsequently, the senior management was summoned for a meeting. The topic was, naturally, about Mr. Manning's job offer. We hadn't yet posted much about Company B since he hadn't actually started working with us, but there was significant posting about Company A. employee salary details and images from a women's changing room he had sneaked into. Even actual project plans he was working on. Moreover, these were not posted on a private social media account, but on one accessible to the public. The spread of these posts was substantial enough to be considered malicious. And for these valid reasons, the decision was made to rescind the job offer. Hearing this, my ex-husband and sister were pale and speechless, mouths agape. As I mentioned earlier, this is usually communicated by phone or in writing, but my wife suggested a proposal. Yes, Mrs. Manning suggested we come to your house since she was invited. So we came together. Indeed, the reason I accepted my estranged sister's invitation was that I had heard about the cancellation of my ex-husband's job offer from him. So, you found out who was leaking information to Company B. It appears to be someone who had received a mid-career job offer from us. This person had also been leaking confidential information from their previous employer, Company A, and honestly, it seemed pretty serious. So, the person in this document is the culprit? Let me see. Yes. The document contained a familiar name. Wait a minute. John Manning, is it? Could this be this person? I showed a photo of my ex-husband that was still on my phone to him. Why do you have his photo? Well, I don't know how to put this, but he's my ex-husband. We divorced a year ago after I caught him cheating with my real sister. What? Thus, it was confirmed that the perpetrator who had been leaking information to Company B was my ex-husband. A few days later, by some coincidence, my sister invited me to their house. Truly, I was shocked. I got the call just a few days after hearing such a story from my husband. I had no intention of going initially, but I accepted the invitation thinking it might create a chance for them to talk. But it turned out to be a great decision. Desperate to assert dominance by inviting me to her home, my sister ended up embarrassingly exposing her own disgrace in front of me. And couldn't say a word, just looking down in silence. So, do you understand the reason for the cancellation of the job offer? I understand. But it's different. Excuse me? It wasn't meant to be taken that way. It was just a joke. I was egged on by my followers, and I posted it in the heat of the moment. There was no deep meaning behind it. Mr. Manning, that is precisely why your job offer was rescinded. It was just for fun, just a joke. There was no deep meaning behind posting it. The casualness with which you broadcast confidential information about the company to the world is unacceptable. We cannot employ someone who might casually leak our confidential information in the future. If this were an already employed staff member, they would be fired. Do you understand? That is, the posts were discovered a few days ago. We took immediate action. This account should already be frozen. Didn't you think something was odd at that point? I thought someone who was offended by the posts might have reported them. I had no idea that Company B was aware of the posts. I hadn't imagined. Is that so? But we were not the only ones who took action. Huh? Afterwards, we naturally informed Company A as well. They suffered more damage than us, after all. Such a thing. About Company A. They were furious. I'm not sure about the details, but I think they'll file a police report and claim for damages. You should expect to receive some kind of communication. So please handle that on your end. Hearing the words police report and damages, my ex-husband turned even paler, then said, I know this is a brazen request, but Could you possibly reconsider the cancellation of the job offer? It would really put me in a difficult position if my job offer from Company B is rescinded. Difficult? Yes. As I mentioned earlier, I got carried away when I received the job offer from Company B and prematurely bought a new apartment in the city. So if the job offer is rescinded, I won't be able to pay for the moving expenses or the mortgage, and I'll be out on the street. I'll accept anything but the job offer being rescinded. So, please, I'm begging you, too. As you can see, we have a newborn daughter. We could manage somehow on our own. But if things continue this way, our daughter will suffer too. So please, forgive him for what he did, please. The two of them said this and begged forgiveness. However, reality isn't so lenient. My husband gave them a sharp look and said, "Truly a brazen request. You can't pay for the new house's mortgage if the job offer is cancelled? You and your child will end up on the street? Is that our concern as employees of Company B? So, that is. You know it's brazen, so please don't make such requests. Even if you beg me, there's nothing I can do. This decision was made by the entirety of Company B. You've brought this upon yourself, so please just accept it. That's all I can say." A sound argument that left no room for rebuttal. I thought this would make him recognize his fault and give up. However, his actions far exceeded my expectations. So that's it. I see your plan. Tracy, this was your goal? You got involved with the executive director of Company B to get back at us for betraying you. What are you talking about? You were jealous of my fast-tracked career and plotted to ruin me by finding my weakness. That's right. Incredibly, he started accusing me of getting involved with him and trying to sabotage his life because I was spiteful about being betrayed. That's ridiculous? What misunderstanding is this? No, there can't be any misunderstanding. It must be true. Seeing him like this, my sister also said. Now that you mention it, it does seem odd. After all, Tracy divorced about a year ago, right? And now she's already remarried? That's suspicious. She started attacking me. You accused us of having an affair, but were you having one yourself? That's not the case. Yeah, right. They say women are better liars than men. Women really do filthy things. All my social media followers say it, too. Women are not to be trusted. Look at her, acting all innocent. This hypocrite. Driven to desperation by being told he couldn't be hired by my husband, he resorted to insulting me. However, my husband didn't remain silent. Hypocrite? Isn't that what you are? What? I'm sorry to burst your bubble, but please don't equate your relationship with ours. What are you saying? We met after she divorced you. I was invited to a drinking party by a friend, where I met Tracy. I later found out that the party was organized by the friend to cheer Tracy up after her terrible breakup with you. There, we clicked. And soon after, we started dating. And so, we quickly decided to get married. That's why our relationship isn't shameful like yours. What? He's right. If you calm down and think about it, you'll see the contradictions in what you're saying. Me, approach him to get revenge on you? I only found out you had a job offer from Company B recently. So, how does it turn out that I approached him to get revenge on you? If I had approached someone related to Company A, maybe, but your accusations are baseless. So, that is. Can you stop projecting your guilty conscience onto everything? Our sharp rebuttal silenced my ex-husband. Seeing his reaction, we decided there was nothing more to discuss and began to leave. However, don't joke. Doing this as revenge against us? I will never forgive this. Enjoy it while you can. Be prepared. As we were leaving, my sister hurled these harsh words at our backs. Hearing her outburst, I turned around, smiled at her, and said, "Isn't it you who should be feeling good? It seems like a certain secret hasn't been uncovered yet. Lucky he's so oblivious. What are you suddenly talking about? What do you mean? Don't you know very well what I'm talking about? What's wrong? Why the pale face? And what secret are you talking about? Hey, remember? Back when we were still married. When we first started fertility treatments. You also had tests done at the hospital, right? What does that have to do with anything now? Why bring up fertility treatments here? It is indeed a bit late, but it's an important issue. For you. What? Aren't you curious about those test results? You acted as if the results had nothing to do with you, didn't bother to listen. Since then, you've assumed infertility was a woman's fault. You never doubted that it was you who was infertile. What are you talking about? The doctor clearly said. The cause of the infertility was not me, but you. That having children would be nearly a miracle. What? I'm the cause of the infertility. That's impossible, that's ridiculous. Because infertility is supposed to be a woman's issue. Indeed, many people mistakenly think all infertility issues are caused by women. But just as often, men can be the cause. Not all infertility issues are due to women. But I have a daughter. If what you're saying is true, my daughter is. That's just nonsense, right? You're just jealous and making this up because you couldn't get pregnant. Who said I couldn't get pregnant? Actually, I'm pregnant right now. What? It's still early, so we don't know the gender yet, but here, this is my ultrasound. This image is of our child. Isn't it cute? The familiar scenario left them both pale and speechless. Well, they never said it was impossible to conceive, maybe a miracle happened. So, why all the insinuations? Why? Maybe you should ask your sweating wife next to you about who the father of the child is. That's. Tracy, are you implying my daughter isn't mine? If it turned out to be true, hiding it forever would be difficult, wouldn't it? Maybe you can't tell now, since she's just been born. But don't you think you'll start to feel something is off as she grows? Especially since they say daughters often resemble their fathers. My words left the two of them frozen. Well, we'll be leaving now. Thank you for having us today. It was nice to see you after such a long time. Take care. With that, we left. It goes without saying that the moment we stepped out of the house, the sound of their yelling could be heard from inside. Several weeks later, I received a call from an unknown number. Hello. Tracy. It's me. As expected, it was my ex-husband. What do you want? I'm busy, you know. After that, I couldn't stop thinking about what you said. And got a DNA test done for my daughter. And it turns out she isn't my child. We're not related by blood. Is that so? And when I confronted her about it, she confessed. She was trying to trap me, someone working at a big corporation, by getting pregnant. But she couldn't conceive, and ended up pregnant with another man's child she was seeing at the time. I was aware of my sister's scheme and that it would eventually come to this. The job offer was rescinded, I had to sell the new house. Plus, the daughter isn't related by blood, and I've divorced her. My parents have cut ties with me because of everything that happened with you. I've lost everything in this past year, all I have left is debt. This must be the punishment for betraying you, Tracy. What should I do now? My ex-husband was probably expecting me to console him. But I chose not to meet his expectations. That's right. What? Exactly. This outcome is all your own doing. A punishment for acting only in your own self-interest. To think you'd expect consolation from me, that's pretty brazen. Accept your fate and live with it. Goodbye. Wait a minute, hey. According to what I later heard from our parents, my sister returned to our family home with her child, but my father, deeming her behavior too audacious, turned her away. With nowhere left to go, she tried to turn to the child's father. But that didn't work out either. She's probably leading a life far removed from the one she had imagined, struggling alone.